It's good to have you join us on the Diaspora, the program that brings you highlights of what Nigerians are doing outside this country. And indeed, it showcases what they are trying to do to make Nigeria better. Welcome to the program. Now, the Diaspora has been off air for some time on the NTA, but thankfully, the management of the Nigerian Television Authority has done the needful to bring us back on air. And we are back with full vigor and motivation to showcase what is happening with Nigerians in the diaspora. Welcome to the program. I am Makut Simon Macham. Now let's get started. It's a well-known fact that Nigerians are some of the most traveled across the world. But the issue is that some travel in smooth circumstances while others follow illegal routes to get to where they are going. Now the case of those who were stranded in Libya is still fresh in our minds. And that is why President Muhammadu Buhari set up a committee led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, to go to Libya and evacuate Nigerians that were stranded in that country. Now, what is the progress of this evacuation? That is going to be our focus on the program this week. Now we begin by refreshing your minds to what really transpired when the delegation led by Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema visited Libya to initiate the process for the evacuation of Nigerians that were stranded in that country. My colleague Mohammed Garba Nata'ala was with that delegation, and this is one of the reports he filed.
Though the identity of this woman is protected, she is one of the known traffickers of young girls and children. But she ran out of luck in Libya and is now serving her jail term on that Libyan government, following her arrest and conviction for different criminal offenses. These 3 young girls are some of her victims whom she exploited for years.
This is a challenge as much for the Libyan government as for the Nigerian government.
Nigerian government is negotiating now with Libyan authorities as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, met his counterparts at the Libyan Ministries of Interior and that of Justice.
But we're still concerned about certain discrepancies in the numbers, So we're working hard with the Libyan government to ensure that all, not only some, that we have access to all the ones that want to leave that are in the control of the Libyan government.
Geoffrey Onyema, leading a Nigerian delegation, visited 2 detention centers that the Libyan government has access to.
You're ready, yeah?
Yeah. We've told them that if the Libyan government is agreeable, although we do not have a mutual exchange agreement of prisoner exchange program, that we will be happy to take even those ones back and try them under the Nigerian system if need be.
While the fate of Nigerians that embarked on illegal migration without proper documentation and caught in Libya was hanging in the balance, their hope is rekindled.
Thank you very much, Nata'ala. Now we engage the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, to give us an update of what has been happening since that visit, and indeed how many Nigerians have been evacuated from Libya. This is the interview.
Honorable Minister, the President gave you this assignment and we are aware you went to Libya. Since then, what really has happened?
We evacuated a significant number, over 2,000. And then, of course, in parallel with that, the IOM, that's the International Organization for Migration, have also been steadily evacuating Nigerians. So the immediate objective, was achieved. There was a significant number that were trapped in Libya, and of course they were being held in unacceptable conditions, and that's when Mr. President asked us to intervene, and we did, and we brought them back.
So what is the level of engagement between Nigeria and the Libyan authorities? After that visit, what have you been discussing?
We maintained the engagement. We received delegation, Libyan delegation here. And, the first thing we stressed to them was that the demand that the respect, that the human rights of all the migrants should be respected, and the conditions in which they are held should be improved and all that, and that they should facilitate their repatriation to Nigeria, because when we went there, they all wanted to come home, they all wanted to come because the conditions were terrible there. Now, we understand and we sympathize to a certain extent with the Libyans, because obviously it's not of their making that these people, they just suddenly find themselves, under this flood of migrants coming across their territory. Of course, they tell us that the government does not condone a lot of the criminality that's taking place and the abuse of human rights. But I pointed out that still there are some camps run by the government, and that the migrants that we spoke to there, complained bitterly about their experiences there, and so the government cannot also claim to be or absorb itself of culpability in the treatment of those refugees in those camps.
So it appears that the Libyans believe that Nigeria should do a lot in trying to stop Nigerians from illegally migrating to Libya. But what is Nigeria doing to stop this from the root? This has been going on for some time now.
There are certain events that have taken place, as you know, in one or two states. Edo State, for instance. The Oba of Benin has also, brought the full weight of his office to bear in trying to dissuade migrants from going across. The various agencies are also, doing what they can. But, they're push and pull factors, Obviously, the push factors are economic. The difficult economic situation in which we find ourselves in this country is obviously one of them. Education and lack of jobs. Lack of education, lack of jobs are also things that facilitate that. But we allow our citizens to move freely. Our country is not a prison camp.
The issue is that legal migration is encouraged while illegal is discouraged. But then it might appear that legal migration is difficult to obtain, and so people resort to the negative aspect. What is your talk to Nigerians on the need for legal migration, and then what education are you giving them?
Yeah, obviously, we are working, and we need to work in sensitizing, our nationals on the importance of, where they want to migrate, to do that, legally, get the correct papers, and always work within the law. That is something we're also trying to do in partnership with, with some of the European countries, so there are, we're looking at different possibilities, some of which include, certain work permits.
Over time, one of the biggest challenges with Nigerian missions is how to deal with Nigerian citizens abroad, particularly those who are in trouble and those who are run against the laws of those countries. For instance, the issue of we just talked about in Libya. What are the missions doing? I mean, are they overwhelmed? And what's the feedback they're giving you on their responsibility to these Nigerians abroad?
Yeah, it's always difficult for the missions, but there are probably two categories of these kinds of Nigerians. There are those who have made it across and you know, and able to just go into the underground and start, you know, and operate. There are those who have been detained by the authorities, and there's an ongoing process to repatriate them to Nigeria. Of course, those that have got in there, they don't come to the Nigerian embassies usually. They tend to come to the Nigerian embassy when they have problems or when they're about to be deported. And our embassies do all the things they have to do, provide all the consular services, all the support, they visit them.
Now, talking about those who have been returned to the country, we had some encounter with two ladies who had earlier been trafficked out of Nigeria. They were not part of those who were evacuated in this presidential order, but their experiences while abroad was worth bringing on this program so as to talk about what they are doing. We encountered them undergoing rehabilitation and indeed making the best of their lives back home. Here is that encounter.
Gift Jonathan is 23 years old and a mother of two. As a young lady, she aspired for a better life for herself and her children until she was lured and trafficked to Libya with a promise of work in Europe. Her ordeal is heartbreaking.
When I left this country, when I was going from Nigeria, they told me I was going to Germany, that if I get to Germany, I'm going there to school. They never told me it was prostitution. And that was what they told many girls I met there. So when I was in Libya, they sold me in Libya in a flat where God will bring different kinds of guys inside. They will sleep with you, pay you just money that is not even close to 2,000 naira in Nigeria, 1,000 naira in Nigerian money. So the suffering there was really hell. You will do it because it's do or die. Either you do it or something else. I've seen some girl, the flats where I was living, if the mother asks you to sleep with this man and you refuse, it will carry iron and burn you. Sometimes they will use hot water or pour on your body. They will use turning stick. It's not even that small one that they used to turn Gary. The bigger one, they used to beat you. They will tell the old girls to beat you.
Like Gift, Blessing, 23, was trafficked to Russia. Her story is not different.
So the ugly experience is that when you get there, in fact, you can sleep with 30 men in a day. 20, depends on how. You will stay in the streets. If they don't understand what is snow, cold, you will be there. In fact, you will freeze. Police will do their own. Your madam will do their own. I have a friend, she died. So many of them like that. Some, they will come either one leg broken, or their waist is bent, or one sickness or the other.
Thanks to the efforts of the Nigerian government and well-spirited Nigerians, the two returned home and were faced with new challenges of survival. Today, that reproach and fear is gradually fading as they are undergoing rehabilitation and training at Amina Academy in Benin City.
And now I really have the courage to advise young girls that there is hope here in Nigeria, not by traveling, and there's nothing out there. Selling your body for men that does not really worth it. It's not really that. That won't give you a better life. But staying back in your country, do something, acquire skills. Like now, I'm very proud of myself. I can bake, I can cook very well. Things I can't really do before, I cannot do that. I never knew this kind of life exists.
Anything, just name any cake, so I can do it. I really appreciate them. They are like God sent to my life, because when I was coming back, I was like, what will I do now? Because I was ashamed. You know this Nigerian thing, when you come back from abroad, the next thing for them to expect you to say house or money or not that. So I was just scared.
Nobody comes out here a failure. That's our principle. And as to how do we achieve this? Through mentoring, through counseling, through practical engagement. Now, when we do this, let's say you have done a class and you don't feel good about it, we repeat that class.
Now, clearly, not all that glitters is gold, and as they say, experience is the best teacher, hoping that some lessons have been learned from this encounter. Now, still talking about this issue, we had an interview with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Diaspora and Foreign Affairs, Honorable Abike Dabri Erewa, who sat to talk to us about some of the issues arising from this evacuation.
Why do human beings get trafficked, particularly from Nigeria? What's the major motivation?
Well, you go to hear poverty, unemployment, but I'll tell you the real reason is ignorance. Ignorance. Look, for every person who gets trafficked, somebody is paying $4,000 to $6,000. For every person who gets trafficked, you're empowering a smuggler. So it's a racket. It's easier to traffic human beings now than drugs. So it's easier to smuggle human beings than drugs. And we're talking about underage children. You have, ages between 14, 16, and 18. What do they know? So somebody is paying for them to make money out of them. So I'm going to say ignorance. So the first thing is there has to be massive awareness. Number one, on the dangers. Number two, on the futility. Now, if you were succeeding before, it's going to get more difficult now. Number one, the boats are getting smaller. It's getting more dangerous. And then Europe, where you're going to, is not ready to accept you anymore. In fact, more often than not, they die before they get there. Yes, we heard about these 26 girls that died in the Mediterranean. That's the figure we heard. What about the numerous ones we didn't hear about? There are many cases of trafficked people just drowning at sea. And again, it's important to now use the stories of those that this administration has been able to bring back. And let them tell their stories of war. And they all come back and say, thank you, IOM. Thank you, President Buhari, for bringing us back. Thank you for a second chance. We'll do something better with our lives. So we need to hear more of them and their stories to tell.
Exactly the point I want to raise next. You've been at this, and even now, people bring these stories and so on. NTA has carried these stories, horrendous stories, of what these people go through. You mentioned the issue of ignorance and so on. But there are cases of people that have been trafficked and re-trafficked. How will this be solved when you have this kind of
the thing is, the world is getting tougher. Like I said, if you succeeded 5 years ago, you're not likely to succeed this time around. And I'll tell you something which is even more, which everybody should know. Now, some African countries like Niger have signed an MOU with Italy and some European countries. Now, when they even catch you in those countries, they are sending you, you're alive, they are even sending you to Niger and some other countries. That's what is going to happen. So when you get back to Niger and those countries, you can now apply for your asylum. Tell me where you'd rather be. I have even handled cases of those I personally received. When we brought back 24 from Libya, there were some we received personally, some of them stayed back, relocated. One called me about 2 months later and said, Honorable, I said, where are you calling from? He said, he's in Spain. You just came back from death. You found yourself in Spain. So it happens.
How has these two been playing? Education and enforcement. Have they been mixing well?
That is why the intervention of the Federal Executive Council, the solution will be for both to mix well, education and enforcement. I think that is the stage we're getting to now. Educate and then ensure that you enforce the laws. I think that is the stage we are in, and that is why I believe that we'll make progress in this issue of irregular migration and trafficking.
Now is that time when we beam our searchlight on Nigerians doing themselves and the country proud abroad. And the corner is called the Diasporan of the Week. Who is our Diasporan of the Week? Who else than the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed.
Born on 27 June 1961, Amina Mohammed hails from Gombe State in northeastern Nigeria. Her father is a Nigerian veterinarian, while her mother is a British nurse. Amina has worked mostly in the private sector, both at national and international level, where she demonstrated commitment, excellence and productivity, earning her different accolades. She was the founder and CEO of the Center for Development Policy Solutions, and as an adjunct professor for the Masters in Development Practice program at Columbia University. At various times, she was the senior special assistant to the President of Nigeria on the Millennium Development Goals, a role she played giving her best to the nation under 3 presidents, namely President Olusegun Obasanjo, Umaru Yar'Adua, and Goodluck Jonathan. In 2005, she took up the assignment of coordinating Nigeria's debt relief funds towards the achievement of the MDGs. This she carried out from 2002 to 2005, in addition to leading the task force on gender and education for the UN Millennium Project. Dutiful Amina was appointed as a special advisor to UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon on post-2015 development planning. This meant that she was the link between the Secretary-General, his high-level panel of eminent persons, HLP, and the General Assembly's Open Working Group, OWG, among other stakeholders. Her role of achievement could not go unnoticed by President Muhammadu Buhari, who appointed her as a minister under his administration. She was given the portfolio of Minister of Environment and led to what has now become the first successful attempt to clean the Niger Delta, beginning with Ogoni land. The star of Amina Mohammed continued to shine brighter as the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres announced her appointment as the Deputy Secretary-General of the United Nations. This makes her one of the world's top public servants and a great ambassador of Nigeria. In her current role at the United Nations, Amina is the Chief Administrative Officer of the organization, with a special focus on sustainable development, including the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, the management of the review of the United Nations Development System, financing for development, humanitarian development nexus, climate change, as well as migration, global health, and related issues. For her achievement and flying high the Nigerian flag abroad, Amina Mohammed is our Diasporan of the Week.
There's no debate as to where you find Nigerians wherever you go in this world, always at the top of their game. This is wishing the Deputy Secretary General more achievements as she serves the world and Nigeria at the United Nations. It's time for the Diaspora News, where we keep tab of what is happening with Nigerians in different parts of the world. Diaspora News is next.
Nigeria has deployed more than 500 Technical Aid Corps volunteers in Sierra Leone since 2009, when it signed bilateral agreements with the government of Sierra Leone for the second phase of the Technical Aid Corps TAC. The Nigerian High Commissioner to Sierra Leone, Habis Ubada, told the news agency of Nigeria that discussions for more volunteers to be deployed in the country were ongoing. It has been reported that there are 195 Nigerians in prisons in Morocco for various crimes. Nigerian ambassador to Morocco, Baba Garba, is reported to have said that the governments of the two nations are yet to have a prisoner transfer agreement. The British government has appointed a Nigerian, Nnenne Wujieme, as its High Commissioner to Mozambique. The move came as Britain steps up efforts to change the overwhelmingly white male face of its diplomatic service. According to reports, Iwujieme will be Britain's first black female career diplomat. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has received 149 Nigerians who voluntarily returned from Libya. The returnees, who arrived Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, comprised of 107 male adults, 37 female adults, including a medical case, 4 female children, and 1 female infant. Program Manager of International Organization for Migration, IOM, Mr. Abraham Tamrat, handed over the returnees to Alhaji Yakubu Suleiman, the Southwest Zonal Coordinator of NEMA. The Oba of Benin, Oba Iware II, has placed some returnees from Libya on 3 months' salaries. A statement signed by his Chief Press Secretary, Desmond Abama, said the monarch announced this when he hosted some Libyan returnees in his palace. Apart from the allowances, the Obai Wari Foundation would provide the necessary tools for those who had gone through the various skills acquisition programs. And finally, Nigeria-born British boxer Anthony Olasheni Joshua has done it again by adding one more title to his growing profile of laurels. Joshua, for the first time, had to rely on the unanimous decision of the judges to beat New Zealand's Joseph Parker in Cardiff at a 12-round World Heavyweight title unification bout. That's Diaspora News for now.
That has been our program for this week. We thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and we'll appreciate you joining us for the next edition of the program. For now, you can reach us by sending us a mail to diasporanta@yahoo.com. I am Makut Simon Matam on behalf of the rest of the team, thanking you for sharing your time with us.